Hey, 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 good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on your part of the globe. Welcome to the Spirit Phoenix Rising Show. You're right here with me, Renee Lynn, your host. And you might be watching us on Moonstruck TV. If you are, welcome, welcome, welcome. Or maybe you're listening to us on A1R Radio, the world's #1 psychic radio network. And you know what? Tonight, I have a #1 psychic with me. In a little bit, I'm going to bring on a gal who is an amazing psychic, a medium. And the thing that's really special about her is she has a real gift for helping everyone realize their own psychic abilities. Now, what would you do if I told you that you yourself have psychic abilities? You're a psychic. You might be able to read my mind. You might be able to sense what's going on with me. See, that's because we all have intuition. We all have gifts, but as we get a little bit older and we grow up, well-meaning people like our parents or teachers, Sunday school teachers, authorities tell us that we have an overactive imagination. Or if you're getting messages maybe in your ears from the angels, they might tell you, oh gosh, what is she, schizophrenic? No. There is nothing wrong with you. In fact, everything is okay and all right with you. The thing is, you just need to learn to pay attention to your senses. So tonight, we're going to talk a bit about developing our senses, right? We all know about the 5 senses, right? We can see, we can hear, we touch, we taste, we smell, right? But how can we cultivate the use of our everyday senses to receive information? To receive psychic information, intuitive information that might be able to give us an edge in business, in communication, with our families, or our spiritual development on an everyday level. So I hope you're interested in this subject because I know I am, right? I mean, it's what led me here to help you guys, right? Was sensory development at an early age. And I just forgot about it for a little bit when I was in college, but then got back into it. And, you know, guys, I'm telling you, this is something that really is within your reach. And maybe through tonight's conversation, you can find out what your special sensory gift is all about. So join me in welcoming my friend Sarah Harvey with the Psychic Medium School. Come on, Sarah. Come talk to us.
Hi, Renee. How are you doing?
I am doing great. You know, coming off of the energy of, yesterday, I know a lot of people had confusion and concern and are feeling unsettled, right? And feeling, right? There is a key word. And I know as a psychic and a medium and a teacher, you deal with people's feelings on a daily basis on a very fine, finessed level. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And we've had a lot of chaotic times throughout the last year. And I guess politically, no matter what side you're on, it's stressful, especially for us empaths out there. It's hard on our emotions. So yeah, it's definitely been challenging.
Oh gosh, yeah. You know, some people who might be new to this path or new listeners, new to the realm of psychic lingo, etc. An empath is somebody who can feel as others feel, someone who can take on the feeling that someone else, if they're sad, it's like you might actually tap into their energy and start crying, you know. You want to talk a little bit about your experience discovering being an empath?
So I have been emotional pretty much all of my life, and I didn't realize that I was actually getting emotions projected onto me from spirits or other people. And so once I discovered what I call the clairsenses, I decided that I was going to explore even more. And now I'm helping other people discover their clairsenses as well.
Wow, that is an amazing gift to help people develop their gifts. Now, I know we don't have a ton of time to connect tonight, so would you mind if maybe we run through these senses? I mentioned that there are 5 of them, but arguably, you know, other people consider there to be 8 clairsenses, and that means clear. It's a prefix that means clear. You want to maybe start with clairvoyance? Shall we start there with clear seeing?
Yeah, that's a perfect place to start. So clear psychic seeing, clairvoyance, a lot of people mistake that for their own imagination. And a lot of people think that maybe it's an external uh, sense. It's not always external. So we think about seeing spirit externally in front of us. That's not always the case. A lot of the time, clairvoyance is actually internal. So when I'm doing mediumship readings and I'm connecting with spirit, I actually, and I'm going to always point to this side of my head because I see spirit on this side when I'm communicating with them during mediumship readings, and it's very consistent. And I'm seeing images, maybe a car. I can see the face of the person that I'm communicating with. And I think a lot of the time people overlook their clairsentience, just assume that it's something that's normal, or that it's something that, or they just, put it off as just a coincidence. But yeah, you actually, clairvoyance is, the majority of the time, it's actually internal. You see with your third eye, you're seeing images.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. You were saying what side you see people on, and this idea of side and periphery. My earliest memories as a child involved this clairvoyance, this clear seeing. I would see spirit in my periphery. And it is not like they were just like, completely horizontal. Maybe they'd be slightly ahead. And, as I would look further and further, coming from Pennsylvania, Gettysburg, these people would be in period dress from like Civil War era. I would also see people from, colonial times. So yeah, spirit was with me in the realm of seeing. And now, do you have experience yourself with remote viewing at all? Because that's something that happens with me in the realm of clairvoyance. Have you worked with that at all?
No, I actually haven't worked with that very much. I work within the 8 clair senses myself, and those are basically what I personally work with, and I'm teaching other people how to discover what their clair senses are and how to control, enhance their clair senses, and then keep grounded while they're doing it.
Wonderful. Well, what would you say your primary clair is then, Sarah? Like, where do you find your dominant sensory information to come from?
So my primary clair is actually clairaudience, and clairaudience can be internal or external. So very commonly, people will hear their name in the house when no one else is there, right?
Yes.
That is a clairaudience experience, and that's external. So internally, clairaudience is really interesting because we often put that off as our own internal voice. And some of the ways that you can identify clairaudience when it's not, or when it's clairaudience and not your own internal voice, is that there's going to be language that you maybe don't use, maybe a slang that you don't use. It might be in a different language altogether. And then there's information that you aren't privy to, that you didn't know before. And so that's how you know that it's a clairaudient experience.
Right on. Sometimes I'll get this high-pitched ring, and before I was really practicing with the clair senses, I was like, gosh, is there something going on with my hearing? Is there a problem? And then as I became more aware of celestial and angelic communication, I realized that's a signal when the angels are beginning to communicate with. That's a signal there. So, that clairaudience can also be through song and all sorts of things. So could you tell us a little bit more about the types of sounds that people in our audience might be hearing that they don't realize might be a clairaudient experience, other than maybe the name? What else is there?
So just like you said that you experienced, Renee, that ringing or buzzing, that's really common for people. And like you said, there's a communication or message that you should be receiving that's just not coming through clearly. And I'm sure you discovered that after you researched it a little bit.
Yes.
So hearing your name is a really common one, like I had mentioned. But a lot of people now, even in the last few months, in discovering what other people experience, I'm having a lot of people say that they're hearing voices and chatter as they're going to sleep. And one of the things I personally experience is that this is when I first realized as an adult that I was experiencing clairaudience. I would hear music when I had my fan on, right? Our fans are supposed to create white noise. And for a clairaudient person, such as myself, and you experience clairaudience as well, having that white noise is like normally blocks off the sound and kind of muffles it a little bit for us so we can go to sleep easier. But what I was having happen is there was music that I could hear, and I knew there were words, but I couldn't hear the words, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that's really common. And the more through the years, the more people that I talk to, the more people I hear say that. And so clairaudiently, you can hear a lot of different things. I think another common thing is when someone doesn't realize they're a medium, there's communication that they're receiving, maybe from somebody that they had pass away, that they overthink and they don't trust their intuition. And what they think is maybe it's their own thought, their own, they think what this person that passed away would say to them. But a lot of the time that actually is a clairaudient message from the person that's passed away. And it's just overlooked because a lot of people don't trust their intuition enough. Even if as you develop your clairsenses or your psychic senses, I think that's really common to question yourself and wonder, was that what I thought it was, you know? And I've actually heard like a screeching sound when communicating during mediumship readings. And when I heard the screeching sound, I realized that spirit did not want to communicate. And it was a really loud, that was the one time I've ever experienced it. And it was a clairaudient experience. It was them not wanting to talk. They were done. And so that is also clairaudience. So there's a lot of different noises that you could hear. Maybe the sound of a noon whistle or an explosion. I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different people. But basically, any clairaudience is defined as clear psychic hearing. So anything externally or internally that you're hearing that other people can't, for the most part, that would be considered clairaudience.
You know, I think there might be, it might be worth mentioning that a lot of folks in their everyday language might recognize, like, if they're uncomfortable with something, they might say it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. Or if they hear an idea that doesn't resonate with them, they say, oh, that sounds bad. Or if you feel like something is a good idea, I can see that. You know, we have all of these sensory clues in our language, and maybe this is a way people can begin to realize, you know, what is their primary way of receiving information. I think you're really onto something with what you were sharing about, the sounds and the explosions. And do you have experience with the clairsentience? Do you get any, sense with your nose? How does that come in for you at all?
Yeah, and actually that is, when people talk about the clairsenses, the clairsalience, clear psychic smelling, is not one that's commonly spoke about. And I think a lot of people get this and they don't realize it's even happening to them, or that it's a psychic sense. I guess they realize it's happening to them, but they don't realize it's a psychic sense. Makes more sense. But so I think like when you and I talked about it, Renee, I think you had said that you'd smelled perfume. Is that what it was? I think it was perfume. But so if you're smelling something like perfume, grandma's perfume, cigar smoke.
Yes.
Personally, my mom passed away in 2008, and I was walking down the parking lot at Menards, which is a local lumber store, and I was right in the middle of the parking lot. No one was around close enough to me to cause this smell, but I smelled what smelled like cinnamon red hots. Well, I used to make soy candles, and my mom's favorite candle was this cinnamon red hot candle that she would have me make for her specifically. And so when I smelled it, it was, it was just one of those things. Like, I just knew there was no one else around me that could have caused the smell, or, it's something that there's no logical reason for that.
Yeah,
I thought that was a good experience, and I think when people pass away, I think as psychics, we expect them to communicate with us in the way we expect them to communicate with us. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's in their own way.
I think you're right. Yeah, I'll get cologne and perfumes. I'll get, the cigarette thing. There's occasionally I'll get baking smells with a certain relative. But I think you're tuning into something we should talk about for the benefit of the audience, is that they might be overthinking what psychic phenomenon and messaging is based upon what they've been shown on television or the movies. They think, mediumship must be about, everyone sitting around a round table holding hands with one another with
right.
candles lit and the spirit board in the middle. But the thing is, while that is a legitimate kind of ritual and way to have communication with spirit, these other things that we're talking about are just as legitimate and just as informative if we're listening, seeing, hearing, smelling, or tasting correctly.
Right.
So another one, speaking of taste, right? Do you have students who experience the clear tasting? It's clairgustance, right? I don't usually talk about it. I might be mispronouncing it myself.
Yeah, no, you're fine. It's clairgustance, and that's clear psychic tasting. And personally, the only time I ever remember this type of sense, clear psychic tasting, is when I was pregnant with my daughter. I would eat ketchup with fries or whatever, and I would get this strong metallic taste in my mouth, and it was just disturbing. But there are other different things people taste, like you talked about baking or smelling different things baking, and the same thing could happen with that. You could taste cinnamon for no reason, those types of things. So those are the types of experiences that I hear about clairgustance.
Oh yeah. That's a good one, and one that I feel is like underexplored for myself. But again, I'm becoming more and more fascinated with that. Maybe we can move to claircognizance, right? This sense of knowing, this sense of having this intuitive, clear sense that something is going to happen. How do you talk to your students about that one?
Right, and that's one of the most that one is one of the most difficult ones for people to identify within themselves. And with me going through the different clairs with them, claircognizance is basically just knowing something that you have no way of knowing. And a lot of people with claircognizance, they're like human lie detectors, I like to say, because they instantly know when someone's lying to them. And it's not an emotional feeling that they're gathering from that person. It's not anything about their appearance. They just know that person is lying to them. And a lot of times what I'm seeing is claircognizance. We think about, now there was a couple different, in the past, there's a couple different people, Nostradamus, that's who I'm trying to think of. So Nostradamus, he actually, in his book, the things that he's describing were all claircognizant predictions. He doesn't explain in the book about having any one of the other clairs, but he knows all these things about our future. And history, they went back and studied his book, and a lot of the things that he predicted were true. And I guess that would be the perfect example that I would have for claircognizance is Nostradamus.
That's a really good example. And I think it also points to the fact that, sensory information with spirit can point to the future, and it can point to happenings in the past, and also quite possibly things that might be happening interdimensionally as well, right? There's just like so many different ways that this information arrives and how it pertains. I mean, there isn't just one way. And I think a lot of people think, again, because what they've been shown on TV, that it's only supposed to work this way. And if it doesn't fit my definition, it's not psychic, but it is. But it is.
Right.
But it is. So I guess one of the ones we haven't touched yet is Clairsentience, right? We haven't done the Clairsentience, the feeling, taking on those kind of physical feelings of another person or a spirit or a soul.
Right. And this is one of my favorite ones because as you look through different resources online, clairsentience is actually described as what I would describe clairempathy or being empathic as being. So those are two separate things. Clairsentience is actually a clear physical feeling, and clairempathy or being empathic, that would be an emotional feeling. So with clairsentience, that would be, we hear a lot about twins, right? My father's actually a twin, so I have a lot of experience listening to what they experience together. And a lot of the time, if one twin gets hurt, the other twin gets pain in the same spot that they were hurt, and that's an interesting thing. But this could also be your friend's depressed and you get a headache, or your wife's pregnant and you're having sympathy pains. That is a pretty good example of clairsentience.
I also, when working with my clients and folks I coach who ask about this, I often will say, if they're trying to make a decision, when you ask yourself this question, where does it feel good or bad? Your head, your heart, your gut. And I think clairsentience for me really does sort of work with me in that lower abdominal, lower chakra kind of place. It's just like it seems to be very active for me personally in that area of the body. But you're right, it can exist throughout the body with different types of experiences, different folks having feelings, But my producers just let me know the time is like going by pretty quickly. But I'd like to, before we go, let you share where people can get in touch with you, and get in touch, let them know that you saw her on, Spirit Phoenix Rising and that you're interested. But yeah, share with the folks how they can connect with you and talk about developing their clairs.
So we actually have a Exploring Clairaudience group, which is actually exploring all 8 clairsenses. And it is, if you search Facebook for Exploring Clairaudience, it'll pop up, and it's actually, that's what the group is called. And you can jump in there. There's a few questions in the group. I also personally offer one-on-one psychic development sessions that I just started offering recently for it to be one-on-one. And I'm excited about that because obviously every time we do something new, we're a little bit nervous. But I love helping people develop their different, their clairsenses and learn about the different ones that there is. And a lot of the time what we're finding is if we have one clairsense, we have more than one, most likely, right? So developing those and understanding them is definitely important to prevent sensory overload and different things like that. It's really, I feel like the Facebook group actually helps a lot of people when it comes to that, because all of a sudden we're in a group full of like-minded people, right? Like, it's just an amazing experience. So I'm really proud of the group, and they actually help me feel like I'm the same, included as well. So like, you can go somewhere and actually feel like we belong. And so I love the group, and so that's the place that I would definitely recommend connecting.
Oh, that's great. What a safe space, safe environment for someone to come get their feet wet and be as involved as they like, or, even just be a bit passive and check things out. Well, anyway, guys, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you, everyone who's listening or watching, for joining us tonight at the Spirit Phoenix Rising Show right here on the A1R Psychic Radio Network. I'm Renee Lynn, and you can find me at reneelynnspirit.com. Shoot me a message. I'd love to chat with you if you're interested in the clairs. Again, thanks so much, Sarah, and thanks so much to everybody out there. Stay psychic, stay safe. Have a good night. Namaste.